Previously on the death of Robert Freeman.
Robert dropped to the floor with the same angry expression on his face, only his body wasn't moving at all. Is that nigga dead? I'm sorry, Riley. I couldn't do anything. Tom took the boys in to live with him and his family. Throughout these years, due to Tom and Sarah's lenient parenting style, Riley would have even more behavioral issues in school. Riley's mischievous behavior in school carried over to his attitude toward the law, while simultaneously, his own moral code was becoming more and more gray. So the Wunsler household was a sort of safe haven where he could, without interference, regress into a life of crime, specifically with Ed Wunsler III and his friend, Jen Rummy. He knew that the only reason they got away with doing all the crimes they do was because of who Ed's family was, and over the years, Riley had become resentful. He moved his right hand to his back pocket as quickly as he could, pulled out his Glock, pointed it at Jen's head, and pulled the trigger. Jen fell to the floor immediately, and Ed stood there shocked. Riley, what the fuck? Riley shot Ed directly in the chest, throwing his body to the door and then gradually sliding to the floor. In exchange for becoming a cold-blooded murderer, he had at least $250,000 between the 3 bags of money they obtained from the robbery. Huey figured out the only way Riley could have gotten that much money. He looked at his little brother in horror as he came to the realization of what he had done, but then quickly gathered his thoughts. You're about to go down, Riley. Before this gets any worse, you need to go outside and turn yourself in. I can't go down. Not now. This is going to be used for your commissary, and the rest will be waiting for you when you get back, if you ever do.
I can't believe you guys haven't talked in 4 years. Does he even know that you're coming? Where's Riley? You asking me that as if the nigga ain't finna end up right back up in here. You two uppity niggas ain't did nothing but waste gas. Huey and Jasmine were slightly taken aback by Riley's new appearance. He was no longer the skinny, short, and mischievous kid from all those years ago. Riley, you need to go into hiding. You were extremely lucky to only get 8 years for a double murder charge, and Ed's family isn't taking this lightly. They're likely looking for you as we speak. I've been locked up 8 years. Ain't nobody going into no hiding. If they catch me, then it's Allah's will. Plus, you don't think they tried to get me from inside all this time? We did run some tests, and it's not looking so good, Mr. Dubois. Mr. Dubois, I'm afraid you have tested positive for HIV, and your CD4 count is decreasing drastically. Where the rest of the money at? You'll get it when you're back on your feet. I done told you about thinking you my daddy, nigga. He couldn't believe his eyes when he saw the first thumbnail in the results. There was no mistake about it. Even though the rapper's name was said to be Chief Don with a song called Wild Story with over 100 million views, what Riley saw was a kid he knew named Don Terrius, the high school boy that used to walk Huey and Riley to the bus stop back home off 64th Street in Chicago. Dad's in the hospital and Mom said it's not looking good and we have to go like right now. Riley, come by the bed, son. This nigga's so gay. Well, kids, the doctor says that I tested positive for HIV. They tested Sarah too, but she was negative. Tom, have you been in contact with anybody in the Wunsler family recently? Well, yeah, actually. Did you ingest anything he gave you? No, absolutely not. Did you make any physical contact with him? Well, he invited me to a sus daddy party that was happening that weekend, but I declined. And then he shook my hand, said goodbye, and left. Kinda bizarre if you ask me. Thugnificent used to tell me about that sus daddy nigga and them freaky ass parties, but he said he never went to one. That nigga ain't nobody to fuck with. If he want you gone, he gonna get you gone and make it look like you got sick or something. I remember when I was 10 and I was doing that black entertainment experiment where I only watched black programs. Yeah, I remember that stupid shit. Well, there was this one interview on a late night talk show with that label executive from Compton, Big Sugar. He basically admitted, on live TV, to murdering his artist with a needle that infected him with HIV. Tom, I think that's what Ed Wunsler Jr. might have done to you when he shook your hand. They tried to poison me too. When the CO woke up, I told him that I knew he was working for the Wunslers and that the sandwich he gave me had poison in it. I threatened to go to the warden if he didn't take a picture of me pretending to eat it in my cell to send to the Wunslers so they think I'm dead. They ain't came after me since, but I bet they got word a few weeks ago that I was alive and getting out, so they went after Tom. About the Freeman boys. My father told me about when they moved into town around 15 years ago. They've been a pain in the ass ever since. Especially that young one, Riley. I'm gonna kill that fucker if it's the last thing I do. But if you got some money for me, I'll take that.
Okay.
Welcome back. You're watching or listening to The Death of Robert Freeman. I know it's been a while, and I won't make any excuses for that, but I do apologize. And if you need to catch up on parts 1, 2, and 3, the link to the playlist will be in the description as well as in the cards. If you prefer reading over listening, You also now have the choice to experience all parts of this story in written form. The link to this is also in the description. Keep in mind that this story takes place in the present day, roughly 15 years after season 3. So without further ado, The Death of Robert Freeman Part 4. On his second day since being released from prison, Riley walked through one of the Macy's entrances of Woodcrest Mall headed to the main shopping center. Jasmine agreed to drive him there while Huey was at work to get a new phone and some clothes, as long as he wore a disguise as Huey insisted. He compromised and decided to wear his brother's black hoodie, black jeans, and ski mask, which prior to 2020 would usually make him appear to be a criminal. But Riley had been updating himself via YouTube on all the trends and events he missed and realized that ever since the COVID-19 outbreak, ski masks had become normalized streetwear fashion. Just as he was about to pass the jewelry department, he heard an all too familiar voice a short distance away in the perfume department.
1017. I think this monk is trying to steal him some jewelry. Probably a watch. Niggas love watches but can't tell time unless it's digital.
Ruckus, nigga, not now.
Riley thought as he began to speed walk his way toward the exit.
Slow down, darky.
Ruckus exclaimed before he began speed walking after Riley and spinning his nunchucks forward in a counterclockwise motion. Before he could get an inch closer to Riley, he felt a sharp pain in his back that brought him to one knee.
Damn it. You Africans can't think for shit, but your show is athletic,
he said while struggling to get back up. Riley was now no more than 20 feet from the store's exit before a relatively large entourage entered through the same wide doorway. They looked to be some kind of rap crew, but instead of talking loudly and flashing money as one would expect, they were all instead holding their eyes and noses in pain. They appeared to have been pepper sprayed before entering the store. Man, fuck Charlie Black, bruh, one of the tallest members of the crew yelled. On phone him, next time I see that old ass nigga, I'm upping that shit on his ass. That was that nigga name? Said another member of the crew that Riley couldn't see behind the bodyguards. Riley recognized his voice instantly.
Don Terry.
Riley yelled toward the large group. Not even 3 seconds passed before the man Riley was yelling to rushed in front of the crowd of young men he was among with his hands inside his Louis Vuitton fanny pack that was wrapped around his shoulder. What's good, gang? Who you is? Don Sirius said to Riley as he threateningly crept toward him. Riley, at this point, realized it would be wise to remove his ski mask because it clearly had Don Sirius on edge.
It's me, Riley, nigga,
Riley said with a smile. The ski mask was now sitting on top of his head.
You remember you used to walk me and my brother to the bus stop and shit when we was little?
Don Sirius's apprehensive stare morphed into a big charming smile. Oh shit, the show is my little nigga Young Reezy. So this where y'all niggas moved to, huh?
Yeah, my granddad moved us down here after the accident,
Riley replied. Don Sirius began rubbing his eyes in pain once again. Shit, yeah, R.I.P. to them folks though. My pops loved your pops like his brother for real, Don Sirius said. We was finna swear you and your brother in the gang until your daddy went all Black Panther and shit. Riley didn't know how to feel about what Don had just said. He missed his father dearly, but he died so long ago that his memory of him mostly faded away. He decided to just change the subject.
So what, y'all niggas on tour or something?
He asked. Hell yeah, we wrapping it up here in Woodcrest and then we finna head down to the A. That's where we stay at now, Don Sirius replied. We gotta be out, but take my number down, gang. We gonna lock in.
Shit, I just got out, Riley replied. I'm finna hit the T-Mobile so I can get me a phone right now, but let me just give you somebody else's number. Text them and then I'm finna hit you when I get mine.
I bet, Don said. Congratulations, by the way.
Appreciate it,
Riley replied.
Look at y'all two niggas celebrating prison time. Can you two niggas have your coon reunion somewhere else?
Ruckus said after finally standing on his feet. Riley ignored him, threw up the peace sign to Don Terrius and his crew, and walked out of the Macy's.
Riley, why don't you have your mask on?
Jasmine snapped as Riley opened the door to her Volkswagen Beetle in the Macy's parking lot.
I done told y'all a nigga ain't finna be in no hiding,
Riley replied as he sat down and closed the door.
You know what kind of niggas I had to deal with when I was locked up? I ain't scared of no motherfucking Once-ler. Fuck a Once-ler. Now let's go to Crown's Fried Chicken.
Jasmine rolled her eyes and began looking at Riley, who was sitting face forward, opening the box to his brand new iPhone.
Huey's gonna be really mad, Riley.
That nigga always mad,
Riley interrupted.
Now, was we finna get a chicken box or what? Cause y'all niggas ain't got nothing but salad and shit at the apartment.
Salads are good for you, Riley. You should give them a try. I have a homemade raspberry vinaigrette.
Bitch, I'm sorry, Jasmine. Riley interrupted before he regained his composure. He began talking more softly. Can we just go to Colonel's Fried Chicken? A nigga is hungry. Jasmine's phone received a text message notification.
Someone just sent me a text, but the number looks unfamiliar.
She said before squinting her eyes and looking closer at her phone.
His area code starts with 678, and it says, "It's Dom, lock me in gang." Riley, who did you give my number to?
Perhaps due to the gaping hole that Grandad left in his heart after passing and the other one that Riley left after getting locked up, Huey had become a lot closer to some of the people they had met in their first few years of moving to Woodcrest. Prior to these traumatic events, Huey normally found these characters to be somewhat annoying, but in Riley and Grandad's absence, combined with Jasmine's convincing, his appreciation for everyone else grew tremendously, including Jasmine. It was now Friday 6 p.m. the next day, and Huey was headed home after a pretty easy day at work. Well, technically, every day was an easy day considering the demands of his job were below his skill level. He was now the rightful heir to his parents' once hefty inheritance, but Grandad wasn't always the most frugal while he was in charge of the money, so having the IT job earned him a steady paycheck and kept himself busy. Huey opened his apartment's front door to see Riley sitting on the couch with Otis, formerly known as Stugnificent, and his best friend Leonard. "Oh, what's up, other little nigga?" Otis shouted as he glanced at Huey and then back at his phone. "I was just showing Riley this new song I recorded last night. I made a cool little TikTok dance to go with it and everything. It ain't mixed enough." "How long have you guys been here?" Huey interrupted. "Well, if I had to estimate, I'm pretty sure we've been here about 10 minutes, Leonard said as he counted with his fingers. "Cause remember, you had said we was invited when you called and told us Riley was back. You know we had to slide through, my nigga," Otis blurted in his usual loud voice before he turned his head to address Riley. "But man, I still can't believe what you did to Ed and Rummy though." Riley continued staring blankly at the TV before Otis continued. "I mean, what did them niggas do to make you that mad?" The conversation faded as Huey walked into the bedroom. There, he was greeted with the sight of Jasmine smiling while sprawled across the bed with her favorite lingerie on.
Hi, babe.
She said as her sensual gaze followed Huey as he walked past her to the closet. "You do know we have company right outside the door, right?" Huey asked while looking downward as he took off his shoes.
I know,
Jasmine quietly protested.
but Huey, between you being so busy with work and dealing with Riley and me doing all these all-nighters for the bar exam, barely had any time for each other for like 3 months now.
"Jasmine," Huey interrupted before turning his head to face her. "All I'm telling you is now clearly isn't the time. Put on some clothes. We have more guests coming."
More guests?
Jasmine asked with a surprised and puzzled expression on her face.
You mean more than just Otis and Leonard?
After Jasmine said this, there was an obnoxious melodic knock on the front door. As Jasmine rushed to put on presentable clothes, Huey swung the front door open. It was his cousin, Dwayne, who moved by himself from New Orleans about 2 years after Grandad died. "What was that, baby?" Dwayne drowsily said with his eyes bloodshot and breath reeking of grape, Fanta, and weed before he dapped Huey up. "Where my little brother Riley at?" "He's right back there on the I know that ain't Dwayne!" Riley exclaimed. Dwayne began walking forward slowly as he extended his right arm. "Welcome home, little cousin. You know I love you, bitch," Dwayne yelled back. Riley quickly stood up and addressed Dwayne with a loud dap, followed by a hug that lasted for about 5 seconds. Huey cracked a small smile. He had just realized that this was the only time he'd seen Riley show genuine joy since he picked him up from prison, other than when he bought some Colonel's Fried Chicken for him. He even felt slightly jealous, but he understood that Dwayne and Riley's personalities were just simply more compatible. Then he remembered that Riley seemed to be able to connect with just about anybody. That made him slightly even more jealous. Dwayne, Riley, and Leonard all sat on the couch facing the television while Otis continued rambling about the upcoming release of his new song. Riley opened the Netflix app on the television and scrolled quickly to the right before selecting a special by stand-up comedian Pretty Willis. "Oh shit, you finna play that new Pretty Willis special?" Otis asked. "Ain't that nigga a crackhead?" "Bitch, I am not on drugs," Pretty Willis abruptly said as an introduction to his special, with his face close up to his camera scowling angrily. Everyone on the couch immediately stared at the television as Pretty Willis continued. "See, in this special, I'll be telling my jokes as usual, but I'll start by speaking some truths that need to be told because liars like to hide them. Liars like slick back. Yes, I said slick back, bitch. I didn't say the a pimp name part because that's just fucking stupid. I always told you do too damn much. You've been going on interviews telling people I got my whole image from you and then turned it mainstream.
Well, Slickback, how come you haven't been able to do it? Because believe me, we have seen you try with them tired-ass reality shows.
Everyone continued sitting on the couch stunned. Even Huey was glued to the television before a loud knock echoed throughout the apartment that sounded like the door was being hit with a stick. Huey abruptly opened the door to a pimp named Slickback with two of his hoes on either side of him. One Huey knew as sweet as Taboo, but another one that was unfamiliar.
Huey, I don't believe I've introduced you to my newest bitch, Lover's Rock,
he said as he pointed his cane toward her with a smirk just wide enough to show off his gold tooth. I told you to stop hitting the door with that cane, Huey scolded.
And I told you this hair cane is blessed with $1 million worth of pimping. Your little door will be just fine.
Slickback responded with his chin up before he and his two hoes walked to the couch in unison. Huey glared at him before Jasmine stepped out of the bedroom and walked with Huey to the end of the couch. By the time Slickback and his hoes sat down, the opening of Pretty Willis' special was over, so he was already on the actual stand-up portion of the presentation.
What are we doing sitting here watching this mockery of real pimping?
Slickback remarked as he rolled his eyes and folded his arms. Everyone in the room except Jasmine turned their head toward him and then toward each other as if to non-verbally negotiate who was going to tell him. Slickback's patience was rapidly thinning.
Well, I guess this cool cat got your motherfucking tongues. I mean, does the room have a problem with a pimp?
Nah, but I ain't even gonna cap. Willis just went in on you in the beginning, Riley said as he continued facing the TV.
I'ma go back so you can see.
The sound of Riley grabbing the remote and repeatedly pressing the rewind button could be clearly heard in the room's awkward silence. Slickback's frown grew increasingly more intense with each word.
You've been going on interviews telling people I got my whole image from you and then turned it mainstream. Well, Slickback, how come you haven't been able to do it? Because hold on. Now let's pause for a second now.
Slickback shouted furiously as he stood up before Riley paused the special.
No, I done took valuable time out of my valuable day to support somebody that I thought was a friend,
he said as he began pointing his cane toward Riley.
But it looks like I've entered an environment brewing with hostility, so I guess I'm just gonna—
We ain't know who's gonna say all that shit, nigga, chill. Riley aggressively interrupted.
Chill? Chill, you say? Please, ain't no need to ever tell a cold pimp like me to chill when I'm already a glacier,
Slickback said as he stared at Riley and hesitantly pointed the cane at his face. While sitting down, Riley quickly grabbed the cane while Slickback still had it gripped and forcefully swung it back next to Slickback's feet. Riley then stood up and got in his face as Slickback stepped closer to him.
I done dealt with enough pimp types like you inside, Slickback. Don't play with me,
Riley said as he began intensely locking eyes with him. Huey could feel that they were on the brink of a needless nigga moment, so he figured it was time to intervene. Riley, he yelled before a knock at the front door paused the movement of everyone in the apartment. I got it, Huey said as he walked toward the door and opened it. On the other side of the door was Riley's old friend Cindy, standing there in a long-sleeved mid-sized dress and black fishnets that covered her legs and feet.
Hey Huey, where my boo at?
Cindy said excitedly while chewing gum with a smile that transferred to Huey like a sickness. Back there trying to be Holyfield, Huey said with a light chuckle. How are you?
I'm good,
Cindy said as she stepped inside, walked past Huey toward the couch and smiled even more brightly as Riley turned toward her and stared blankly without moving.
Ain't you happy to see me?
Cindy said as she tilted her head to the side and poked out her hip.
Cindy,
Riley managed to utter before he glanced at Huey. Huey briefly smirked back and looked away. Cindy softly placed her left hand on Riley's right forearm.
I know it's been a minute since I seen you, but I told you I had some—
I ain't tripping about that. If you got a nigga, you got a nigga.
Riley quickly interrupted as he started looking down. That ain't none of my business.
Well, I was just gonna say, that's kinda over.
After saying this, she smiled and looked back up at Riley.
You look good, by the way.
She began smiling so hard that Riley couldn't help but smile back and rest his left hand on her right arm.
If that's your way of telling me you miss me, I'll take it.
Cindy said as her smile grew even wider. The seduction in her eyes pierced Riley more and more by the second. While Huey was focused on watching Cindy and Riley, Jasmine intensely glared at him as she stood by their bedroom door. Jasmine had known Huey for about 15 years now, and she could count the amount of times she had seen him smile for this long in one hand. A strong jolt of jealousy began to sting her heart as she realized none of those instances were because of her.
Do I really matter to him?
She thought as she walked past everyone toward the kitchen.
Or am I just like a placeholder or something?
She took a 75% finished bottle of 1800 tequila and a wine glass out of the cabinet and filled the glass nearly to the brim before she quickly gulped down half of it. She then grabbed her full bottle of Adderall pills from the drawer under the counter and tossed 2 of them to the back of her tongue before she finished the rest of the alcohol in the glass. Riley and Cindy sat down on the couch next to Slickback, who was visibly furious. Riley felt a warm feeling that he hadn't experienced for 8 years when Cindy laid her head on his shoulder and lightly rubbed his large tricep and bicep on his right arm over his tattoos with both of her hands.
I guess you could pick me up when you fuck me now, huh, Daddy?
Cindy whispered into Riley's ear as her rubs grew increasingly sensual. Riley chuckled and slowly turned his head to look into her seductive eyes. His mind immediately drifted into a memory of 8 years prior, when they were 14, a few months before he was arrested. He and Cindy were sitting on the edge of her bed in her gigantic, empty mansion playing Tekken on her PlayStation 4. After she had beaten him for the 3rd time in a row, Riley flung the controller in a rage, causing it to break. "Man, all you doing is pressing the same buttons and shit," Riley exclaimed.
"Oh, you're real mad, huh? Well, I hope you planning on buying me a new controller,"
Cindy said as she gazed at him with a cocky smile. "Shit, I ain't got new controller money right now," Riley quickly replied, facing the television with an angry expression.
"Ain't you just rob a bank with Ed and Remy last week?"
Cindy asked, still facing Riley. Riley attempted to ignore the question and got up to pick up the controller that he just threw.
"I swear you always letting them dudes play you,"
Cindy snidely remarked with a chuckle as she watched him. Riley grabbed the controller from the floor and stared at it for about a second. "Bitch, I don't know who you think Young Reezy is, but I ain't never got played in my life." Cindy quickly hopped off the bed and stood directly in Riley's face.
Who is you calling a bitch?"
Ever since high school started, Riley and his brother had significant growth spurts, so he now towered over Cindy, who seemed to like this new height difference. She tilted her head all the way back and looked up directly into Riley's eyes as she wrapped her arms around him.
"You better be lucky you getting kind of fine.
She said as her eyes pierced deeper into his soul. "Man, come on with all that, Cindy. We just playing the game," Riley said as he gently nudged her away. Cindy aggressively pulled him closer.
I don't know why you try to act like that when I can feel you, Riley,"
Cindy said as she looked down. "Cindy, what you want from a nigga?" Riley snapped as her grip on him remained. "You been doing all this extra shit every time I come over for the past few weeks. You trying to trap a nigga or something?" Cindy let out a brief hysterical laugh.
"Boy, trap you and get what? Ed and Remy the ones with all your money."
In response, Riley nudged Cindy away, slightly less gently than last time. Cindy pulled him closer once again, even more aggressively, before she looked deeply into Riley's eyes.
"I'm tired of being a virgin, and you're the only dude that I like that I can trust for real."
"What other niggas you like?" Riley blurted uncontrollably.
"I knew you was gonna ask that. If you're just getting jealous about me, why you trying to front like you don't want me?"
Cindy said as she sensually rubbed up and down Riley's back. Riley's heart felt like an 808 drum as the rubs from her small soft hands rapidly softened his guard bit by bit. She stood on the balls of her feet and raised her body up and softly bit Riley's bottom lip. He uncontrollably kissed her back aggressively and gripped her tightly. His tongue began exploring hers as they both closed their eyes and stumbled onto the bed. "I ain't gonna lie, I missed your ass, Cindy," Riley said as their bodies warmed each other on Huey's couch.
I know.
Cindy boastfully said as she chuckled softly and rubbed his tricep with her thumb.
You want to go to my house, boo?
"You sure ain't never been the type to waste no time," Riley said as the gaze into her eyes grew in intensity. "Alright, let's get the hell on out of here then." He looked over to the left at Slickback, who remained seated, still glaring at the paused television. He lightly placed his left hand on his shoulder as he handed the remote to him. "Change it to whatever you want, my nigga, but we ain't do that shit on purpose." As he stood up, he dapped up Otis, who was conversing with Sweet as Taboo. He then dapped up Leonard and Dwayne before he began to inch toward Huey. "Damn, baby, you finna leave already?" Dwayne said with a gleeful smile that was partially influenced by the drugs he was on. Riley nodded his head as he faced him and rolled his pupils to the side toward Cindy. Dwayne nodded in understanding. He began walking closer to Huey. "I'ma lock in with y'all later," Riley said while looking back as he raised up the peace sign. "Alright, get home safe," Leonard said. "Even though this is your home, but you know what I'm saying, but I hope you get wherever you going." His voice began to get drowned out among the noise as Riley stepped directly in front of his brother, who was standing there the whole time with the same smirk. Riley smiled back, let out his right arm, and dapped him up before pulling each other in for a passionate hug. "I appreciate you, Huey, for real," Riley said in his brother's ear. "No problem, man," Huey said as he gripped him tighter. "We're all we got." "You still a bitch." They both laughed hysterically as they let each other go before Huey opened the door for the pair to walk out of the apartment. "Be safe, Riley," Huey said with a raised voice as he watched them walk down the hallway toward the elevator. His heart filled with worry as the distance between he and his brother increased with their every step. Huey's mission for the night was completed, but after he closed the door, he looked back at the gathering that was still in his house. It was time to get them the fuck out of his place. It was now after midnight and Riley woke up after a nap in Cindy's bed. Her phone had been receiving text message notifications repeatedly for the last hour, so much so that he heard them in his dream while he was asleep. He slightly had to use the bathroom, but the warmth of her naked body next to him kept his body right where it was. Another text message notification came through, but this one was muffled. He then realized that this wasn't Cindy's but his own phone that he was laying on top of. He readjusted himself in order to pull his phone from underneath him. This woke Cindy up, who turned toward her phone immediately before kissing her teeth in what seemed to be frustration. She then turned her body away from Riley and began typing quickly. The sound of her nails repeatedly tapping the phone screen annoyed Riley enough to get up and go to the bathroom.
Where you going, bae?
Cindy asked as she paused the message she was writing and placed her phone face down on the bed in front of her. The bathroom, he said without looking at her as he quickly walked out of the room. He shook his head as he walked through her wide hallway. Bitches, he thought to himself. After washing his hands in her luxury ceramic sink that had gone through lots of wear and tear through the years, he picked his phone up from out of his pocket and saw that it was Don Terrius that texted him. "We finna hit this sus daddy party before we fly back to ATL. Come slide through and bring your brother." "Jasmine, you've been saying the same thing for the last hour. How are you not tired?" Huey said as he stood next to his and Jasmine's bed in his nightgown trying to hide his frustration. "Are you taking those pills again? I told you, that's basically meth in a pill. Do you want to be a meth head, Jasmine?"
No, I don't want to be a meth head, Huey, but thanks for asking. I do have a father that's dying, though.
Jasmine said with her eyes rolling.
I told you they helped me get through school, and that's all.
Huey's phone suddenly received a text message notification, so he disconnected it from the nightstand charger. "It's Riley," he said as he stared at his phone with laser focus.
Well, speak of the fucking devil.
Jasmine said right before she got in the bed and laid on her side with her back to him. Huey glanced at her for a split second and then back at Riley's message. "Hey Huey, I know it's late, but Don Terrius just invited both of us to a sus daddy party. Now before you say hell no, I got an idea for how to take down the monsters." Huey immediately clicked Riley's contact name and pressed call. Riley answered after only half a ring. "Riley, in what world would going to a sus daddy party be a good idea?" Huey said with the phone to his ear as he began pacing next to his side of the bed. Upon hearing him say this, Jasmine, still laying down, flipped her body over to face Huey once again. Riley hesitated before speaking.
I mean, we probably can't do nothing to him physically, but hear me out. They had me in my cell with this old Cuban nigga when I was locked up, and he told me about Santeria.
Santeria? Riley, don't tell me you're into some superstitious BS now. Aren't you supposed to be Muslim? Huey interrupted. Riley paused again before speaking.
Well, damn, nigga, you supposed to be all pro-black and shit, but when I bring up the spirituality of your motherfucking ancestors, you all dismissive and shit.
This time it was Huey that paused for a moment before speaking. Well, what's your plan, Riley?
When you coming to see me again?
Cindy asked as she walked Riley to the front door. I told you I'm gonna see you soon, Riley said with a subtle irritation.
Well, you sound less convincing than the first time.
Cindy said as she rolled her eyes.
If it's 'cause of the text, I told you my ex be tripping. He think we still together, we ain't even talking.
Cindy, Riley snapped before he let out a sigh to calm himself down. Less than a second later, he received a text from Huey that read, I'm outside.
Where y'all going?
She asked while looking at him and pouting her lips. Don't worry about it. I'll tell you later.
You better not be doing nothing stupid, Riley.
Riley turned away from the front door to face her. He stepped toward her until he was close enough to feel the warmth of her body one more time before he left the mansion. He gently lifted her chin and softly kissed her lips. You ain't gotta worry about that, he whispered as he gazed into her eyes. I can't believe I'm actually wearing this, Huey said as Riley opened Cindy's front door. Riley glanced at his older brother's outfit, which consisted entirely of clothes he had gotten from the mall earlier. He had on white Air Force Ones, black fitted jeans with rips and bleach stain designs, an oversized brown and white Fendi t-shirt with a blue denim jacket. And to top it off, his hair was tied into a puffy ponytail instead of his classic afro. Riley chuckled softly before he looked away. Huey, you always dress like a broke Black Panther. Ain't nothing wrong with a little drip sometimes, nigga. And don't be creasing my forces either, nigga. Walk carefully. You got my outfit, right? Don't disrespect the Panthers, Riley. And yeah, Huey replied as he handed Riley a change of clothes. Come in, I'm finna change real quick, Riley said before speed walking to Cindy's bathroom. Huey watched his brother walk away and then turned his head to glance at Cindy, who immediately bursted into laughter.
Huey!
She struggled to utter through her loud chuckling.
What the fuck you got on, bro?
He stared at her blankly before thinking to himself, yeah, if she's not the one for Riley, I don't know who is. Well, it'll blend us in with Dontarius' crew, that much is for sure, Huey nonchalantly replied. Cindy's expression went from humor to puzzle.
Playing y'all lame.
Before Huey could reply, Riley's footsteps were heard coming down the hallway from the bathroom. Cindy's expression went from puzzled to smitten as she scanned his outfit that consisted of black Timberland boots, black ripped jeans, a brown Fendi hoodie, and black denim jacket. So you said we need a few of his possessions, right? Huey asked. Yeah, as much as we can get, Riley answered before they began hearing Dontarius' song, Wild Story, in the distance. The music's volume quickly increased as they walked to the end of Cindy's driveway. The two brothers stood with their backs straight up like battle-ready soldiers as a Mercedes Sprinter van that Dontarius was arriving in was now in full view. The window on the driver's side slid down to reveal the blonde dreadlocks of the entourage's leader that Riley saw at the mall. Huey recognized them as well but couldn't put his finger on exactly where he'd seen them before. He knew he was a rapper though. What up? He said as he extended his right hand to dap the brothers up. Y'all get in on the other side, there's some space in the back. After he said this, Riley spotted Dontarius in the passenger seat and made eye contact with him. Young Reezy, Don said with a huge charming grin on his face. What up, nigga? Riley said as he dapped him up on his way to the side door of the Sprinter. Huey? Don said excitedly as he dapped him up as well. It's crazy as fuck y'all really grown ass niggas now. It feel like just yesterday when I was protecting y'all from the GDs at the bus stop and shit. I never got to tell you before we left, but I really do appreciate you doing that, Huey replied as he squeezed past all the members of the crew until he finally spotted the spot next to Riley in the back of the van. Don turned around in his seat to briefly glance at the brothers with a grin. Nigga, y'all family, on phone them ain't no pressure, dog.
Don noticed that the two brothers had ski masks sticking out of both of their front pockets.
On the other hand, why y'all niggas over here looking like y'all ready for a drill? Y'all got ops at the party or something? You can say that, Riley replied. Nigga, what ups y'all got in suburban ass Woodcrest, Maryland? Don asked facetiously. You know all you had to do was tell me. I had that problem solved in under 48 hours. Huey and Riley glanced at each other for a moment before Huey began speaking. This isn't the type of problem that can be solved with a bullet. It's a bit more complicated than that. Fuck you mean? Ain't a nigga in this world too complicated to get put down now? Don replied with a bloodthirsty grin that Huey could see even as Don looked out of the windshield in the passenger seat. Me and Riley got this handled, but I appreciate it, Huey replied with a slight bit of apprehension in his voice. Don really was as bloodthirsty as his music portrayed him to be. Thank you for watching. If you would like a part 5 to this story, there won't be one. But there will be a continuation titled, The Story of Adult Riley Freeman. This is the thumbnail right here, so look out for it if it pops up on your feed. If you would like this continuation, comment Adult Riley. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any new content on this channel.
Ain't no picking and choosing up on this side what it's gonna be. And if you coming in 64 trying to ride, don't get cold feet. Little bitch is done. You come at me wrong, shooting at your mom.